Assalamu alaikum and greetings to all of you. I'm absolutely honored and delighted that I have been invited to speak at this wonderful conference that is being hosted by the Maulana Azad National Urdu University in Hyderabad. I want to give my greetings and best wishes and congratulations to Professor Syed Ainul Hassan, who is the chief patron and the Vice Chancellor of this university. I also want to thank especially Professor Mohammed Habib, who is the director of this conference and who extended this invitation to me. I regret the fact that when I was in Hyderabad 3 weeks ago, I could not participate in the seminar that we had planned, but inshallah, next time I'm in town, I will definitely visit the university that I've heard a lot about. I also want to congratulate the coordinator of the conference, Dr. Atif Imran. And if Dr. Suleiman Siddiqui is present at the moment at the conference, I would also like to give him my deepest regards and best wishes. When I was growing up in Hyderabad, he was a role model, an academic, and also a cricketer. So I have a deep respect for Dr. Suleiman Siddiqui. So today, what I'm going to do in the brief time that I have been given to me, the paper that I will be presenting is, I'll be looking at some of the post-colonial scholars from India and Iran. So I will look at Maulana Wahiduddin Khan and Abdul Karim Surush, the philosopher from Iran, their contributions on the topic of Islam and democracy. But that will be as part of my paper. But today I do want to make a few comments about modernity and postmodernity, and I'm actually quite happy and pleased that the university is considering them. In my recent book on Islam and good governance, I talked about how Muslims have struggled for over 100 years to cope with modernity. One of the reasons why I think Muslims have struggled to cope with modernity, and I can tell you this flat out, that societies which have struggled to meet the challenges of modernity have not been able to fully realize their potential. And so there are traditional societies which are struggling to cope with the challenges of modernity and so are lagging behind on most indicators of development, whether it's economic development, socio-political development, or even cultural vitality. So the challenges of modernity that are key that Muslims are still struggling across are, number one, is the concept of the nation state. So the nation state came as something that is quite antithetical to the Muslim way of thinking about politics, which was the concept for Muslim is the concept of ummah, and so the nation state was dividing the ummah. Basically, the modern nation state is the old tribalism in a new body. And so Muslim thinkers continue to struggle with the challenge of the nation state, which demands severe loyalties from its citizens. So there is a continuous struggle, whether Muslims are in majority or whether they are in minority. They are struggling to cope with the modern demands of citizenship and the modern demands of a nation state. The second challenge that Muslims have struggled to deal with, which is modern, is the complete domination of the scientific way of thinking. Not all social scientific way of thinking are scientific. There are narratives, there are ideological perspectives, but the sciences are there, hardcore. That is why today we have AI, we have telescopes in the space, and today we are thinking of going to Mars because there is a science that works. And it is very clear, without doubt, that Muslims everywhere are lagging behind other civilizational communities when it comes to sciences, because whatever the various arguments that I can't go into now, Muslims have struggled to cope with the idea of causality, going all the way back to the days of Imam Ghazali and Ibn Rushd's debates. And even though Sir Syed Ahmad Khan recognized the significance of scientific education and embarked on the project which has become the Aligarh Muslim University, the challenge still remains. There are Muslims who are doing well in scientific fields, but Muslim societies, there are more than 50 Muslim countries which are not at the cutting edge of science. That is the second challenge that Muslims have struggled to face with. The third challenge is with regards to the kind of nation state, whether it is authoritarian or democratic or liberal. So one of the challenges that Muslims have faced as a result of the onslaught of modernity is the emergence of this narrative that democracy is the best form of governance. And though Muslims have argued that given the concept of shura, Muslims can adopt to democracy, Iqbal and others have also made that argument. Uh, the democracy deficit is just staggering in the Muslim world. There are a few flawed democracies like Indonesia and Malaysia, Albania, but more or less a vast majority of Muslim countries are either hybrid regimes or authoritarian regimes. And the fourth challenge of modernity that Muslims, even to this day, continue to struggle is the issue of gender equality. And so you're all familiar with the issues, and both practical, political, and intellectual challenges, and theological and fiqhi challenges of this demand of modernity to treat people equal regardless of their gender. So Muslims are still coming to terms. Some societies have taken significant steps in coming to terms with this, and others are still lagging behind. But collectively speaking, these four challenges continue to remain in the Muslim world. In India, the triple talaq issue once again highlighted this issue for Indian Muslims. So these are the challenges that Muslims continue to deal with. But unfortunately, I think the single most important reason why Muslims have struggled is because they have understood modernity as Western culture. And because they rejected Western culture, Western norms, and Western values, they thought that they can simply reject modernity. Modernity is not Western culture. The West is also struggling, even to this day, to cope with the demands of modernity. Modernity is a historical condition. We cannot go back. We cannot go back to a world without internet. We can't go back to a world without nuclear weapons. We can't go back to a world without quantum physics. These are structural conditions. The economic, political, socio-political, structural changes that have happened, these are historical structures, and this is the conditions of history that Muslims have to realize that not only the Muslim world, but also the Western world and India and Japan and all other countries which are non-Muslim majorities are also struggling to cope with the challenges of modernity. It is not a Western culture. You can't reject it. And that is one of the fundamental reasons why I think many Muslim intellectuals and societies have struggled to cope with modernity, is because they think they can do away with it. Rather than ride the tiger, they think they can wish the tiger away. Now, on top of this, postmodernity has come in, and postmodernity's challenges are one, it seeks to undermine the very challenge that modernity has posed, and it undermines modernity. Two, questions science, especially in the social sciences arena, but most importantly, it is basically deconstructing the binaries on which modernity is constructed, developed, underdeveloped, advanced, backwards, male and female. And so the cultural aspects of post-modernity are those that are bothering Muslim societies very much, especially here in the Western societies. Muslims who live as minorities in Europe and the US are struggling to cope with the rise of the LGBTQ movement, are struggling with the transgender issue, even though the first country, I think, to finance gender reassignment operations from a government budget was Iran. So these are the two challenges that Muslims are facing, and they are facing it in all arenas, but also in Islamic studies, because now they have to necessarily rethink Islamic laws and Islamic values, Islamic philosophy. The assumption that Islam, everything that is correct about Islam has already been articulated in the past. If you're working with that assumption that all Muslim thinkers and intellectuals, all they have to do is just open the appropriate book from the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, or 12th century, and you have all the answers. If that is the approach to understanding Islam and Islamic studies, then I can guarantee you Muslim societies will never become vibrant and will continue to remain backward from the rest of the world. It is those societies which are ijtihadi, which believe that there is new ways of thinking about Islam, which are more commensurate with the time and place that we live in today, And if we are willing to think like that, then I think there is room for both Islam in the public sphere and in the private lives of Muslims, both in modern and postmodern societies. There is a segment of Muslim societies who pine for and love to have the period of the Khulafai Rashidin to be replicated and to revived. Islamic political movements have been pushing for this idea of the caliphate. What it tells me, this desire for the caliphate, is a strong cry for help that Muslims have not been able to cope with modernity. They have not yet addressed fully the challenge of postmodernity. While Muslims are not able to face this, they are yearning for the pre-modern. This desire for the caliphate is a desire for the pre-modern. We are living at the cusp of modern and postmodern societies. Some of us who live in the West are a bit more into postmodern situations. And those of you who are living in more traditional Muslim societies and Muslim countries are at the cusp of modern and postmodern. So those who are pining for the pre-modern, who want to turn the clock back, who are looking forward while they are drying, are going to have accidents. And so I think it is very important. I'm not sure that either me or any one of us will be able to come up with this magic concept which will solve the problems of the Ummah. But it is very important that Muslims continue to talk and engage, debate, and think about the challenges of modernity and postmodernity. This is a very serious challenge, both philosophically, theologically, and from an Islamic jurisprudential point of view. And so I look forward to listening to all the papers and presentations that are going to be made at the conference. And once again, Professor Habib, thank you very much for inviting me to make this presentation and also to present a paper. Inshallah, next time I will probably do that in person. This time you will have to be satisfied with my virtual presence. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum to all of you. I'm Muqtedar Khan, Professor of International Affairs and Islamic Studies at the University of Delaware. Jazakallah khair.